How do you know that?
How do you know that?
How'd you know that?
Shock the nation, bud.
What's going on, Chad?
Not much. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm pretty good. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today on the Shock the Nation podcast, so I appreciate everybody who has subscribed and liked our videos so far. And today we're actually going to be talking about the JFK assassination and government conspiracies.
Heck yeah, we are. We've done a lot of research. Sounds like the Sauce Boss did some stuff on the Rothschilds.
Yeah, that'll be next episode.
Is that going to be another episode? All right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll end up there. You don't know. I mean, we could still end up there.
Yeah. That'll work.
So you watched that video. So Paramount Plus has a great video out. It's called JFK, What the Doctor Saw. It's a pretty good video. It's not a real long video, and they don't really go into a lot of, I guess, the theories or conspiracy theories, but they do say that there is a conspiracy based on what they saw in Dallas, Texas, versus what the official autopsy showed. And there's some footage, or not footage, well, even the footage, but there's the photographic evidence of big differences between what they saw, and it was the Parkland Hospital, I believe, in Dallas, Texas. And they took him there because that's where big trauma and shootings and stuff like that was the best hospital to go to in Dallas. But there's still some guys alive. From when this video was done, they showed some footage that looked like from 2013. So some of those doctors still might not be alive, but they were med students. So, there were some first year and fourth year med students there that got to be in the room when JFK showed up. So, yeah, it was quite interesting. I would suggest people to go watch it, come up with your own opinion. But what were some of the things that stuck out to you, Jesse, on that?
What's that, Chad? Sorry.
What were some of the things that stuck out to you after watching that video?
Well, one thing that kind of blew my mind right in the beginning of the episode, they're talking about how they had the route. They publicized the route the president was going to be taking for the parade, which maybe security wasn't maybe as big of a thing back then.
Obviously, it wasn't. I mean, he was in an open car. I mean, the security wasn't near what it is now.
Well, they also said that that's actually not normal for them to make it like announce the route 3 days in advance. And I guess some of the security consultants for the president were saying that's a very bad idea. We shouldn't do that. And they went along with it anyway.
So one thing that kind of goes along with that. So whenever you hear people talk about when JFK was there, and the history books kind of talk about it, they always say, oh, he was greeted with, everybody was excited that he was going to be there. What they don't tell you is the Republicans and other parties that were not in support of him, they ran ads in the paper saying to come and demonstrate. He wasn't as, I guess, invited with open arms as they make it sound. I mean, he wasn't a very popular president in Texas. Texas is a Republican state for the most part. He was not what the people there voted for back then. I mean, I guarantee you, he did not win Texas. He wasn't the guy that they wanted to be there. There was a lot of people. I'm sure there was a lot of protests, but you don't see that in the history books. You don't see that in any of the videos when they talk about him being there. Yeah,
and another thing too was like what kind of set me off about the beginning of the that documentary is they're playing the old newscastings, right? So the old newscasters were talking about, man, it's going to be really hard to protect the president because there's so many people that want to go up and talk to him. And it's like, why is that something that you say right off the bat? To me, that's a little weird. I mean, you don't hear him say when Barack Obama or whoever was going up to do a speech, it's going to be really hard to protect the president because there's so many people here.
Yeah, no, it's a lot different now than it was then, dude. I mean, security was not a top thing. I mean, yeah, he had Secret Service and all that, but you don't drive around in a convertible. I mean, if you're the president of the United States, you just and you know the Pope had to learn that the hard way too. You know, you don't drive around if you're a figurehead, you don't do that. I mean, there's crazy people out there, right? I mean, you got to protect yourself. But yeah, I tell you, the difference of back then versus what it is now and today. Like in 1989, I was in high school, and I got to meet George Bush Sr. when he was running for president. And it was at a wrestling meet or a tournament, actually. The security that we had to go through, because he came to this tournament, don't know why, but he did. Dude, we got patted down. They looked through our bags. There was bomb dogs there. They sniffed us. You know, there was a hot Secret Service chick, though. I mean, at least we got to see a hot Secret Service chick. But you know, other than that, yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I remember they were going down the halls, looking up in the ceilings and stuff, and then we couldn't go into our locker room until they were done. And yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I'm sure they didn't have that then.
Well, I mean, they did say in the documentary there was police squadrons everywhere. There was, I mean, it was secure, but not like modern day. They don't have like trained military snipers on every corner of every building all around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not like it is today.
Like today, when they shut down the interstate, when the president's going down the interstate and they turn off the cell coverage, you can't use your phone because it just knocks it out. Because they don't want anybody to pinpoint where the president's at. It's crazy.
Yep. Another thing that kind of bothered me, I wouldn't say bothered me, it was interesting about the documentary, right? So as soon as he's shot, the first shot, you can tell because he starts covering his neck.
Yeah, he's doing this.
He's doing this, and he's kind of leaning back to the side, and his wife is almost like, if you watch the documentary, she's almost kind of like she doesn't react the way.
Well, but she was kind of leaning in, like what's going on? I mean, I think she knew something was wrong.
Well, and just wait. Okay, so first shot rings out. Second shot hits, the car takes off. So that Secret Service guy that's walking or near he jumps onto the back of the vehicle.
Yep.
And one thing that's odd is if I get shot in the head, right, and a piece of my skull is rolling down the back of the car, why is his wife retrieving the skull, like grabbing it real quick?
And it wasn't skull; it was brain matter. If I remember right. So she, you know, when you watch that footage, the Zverter footage, a lot of people think that she was trying to get out of the car as it was speeding away, or trying to help that Secret Service guy up on the car. And you're right. No, she was going back, a chunk in his brain. She was going back to grab his brain. Why? I don't know. I mean, shock goes in.
They talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's shock? I mean, do you think that's why, or why would? What's your theory on that?
If you're in shock, right, you just see something like that, your first reaction is not going to be grab a piece of brain off the back of the car. You're going to be frozen for probably the first 10 seconds of this ordeal, right? You're going to be frozen. You're going to be paused up or not. And maybe that's not always true. Some people react different to things like that going on. My first reaction, though, if I just witnessed my wife's head get blown apart, is I'm not going to go grab some brain off the back of the car, right? And then the doctors even say once she gets into emergency room. She hands that and it was a piece of skull and brain matter.
Yep.
He hands this piece of his skull and the brain matter to the doctor.
Yeah.
And then proceeds to talk to other people in the room and shake their hands. She's acting like nothing even happened.
Well, one thing that they did talk about is she kind of had an acceptance to this in a way. Like, she always feared that something like this would happen. So, I mean, if you're thinking, there's a good chance that someone's going to try to kill my husband, or that maybe you are in a different mentality when it does happen. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe something in her head, maybe she played something similar like this out in her head and thought, okay, I got to do this.
Back then, when is the last time you've heard of a president getting killed like that? Never.
Lincoln. I mean,
And with all the security they had, and for that time, that's a lot of security. I mean, every police officer in Dallas was there. I mean, so many Secret Service guys. Heck, there was National Guard there. I mean, that wouldn't have that shouldn't have been going through her head at the time. But I think with his cheating with Marilyn Monroe, I think she had, someone came to her and like, hey, this is what's going to happen, and you can get with it or you can get done like him. That's what I think.
That's what you think. So, so I guess walking through, all the stuff, what was, in your mind, the biggest discrepancies of what happened, what they talked about in Parkland versus what, I guess, the Warren Commission came out with? What were the biggest things that you thought were the differences? Because that's ultimately what this video is about. It's about what they witnessed in Parkland versus what the official autopsy showed.
Yeah. So biggest discrepancy is if you were to compare, right, the autopsy photos of the back of JFK's head to when he was in Parkland and his head was pretty much, the back of his head was gone. They said there was a hole with the diameter of like 5 inches gone out of the back of his head. And I find that's kind of why I brought the wife grabbing his skull and the back and everything. She's retrieving all the pieces. Kind of weird to me, because when he went to the official autopsy, the doctors in Parkland even said they had remanufactured his head back. So that's what his head looked like in Parkland.
Yep, in Parkland.
Okay.
So then, the difference is on the autopsy.
Yep.
That's his autopsy photo, the back of his head.
See,
how can that be? So as they were saying, they feel like they folded that skin back up to cover it of the big gaping hole. So, imagine you have all that. They're just holding the bottom up and taking a picture from behind and making it look like no big deal,
Yeah.
And, did you notice here too, looks like this might be the entrance wound that they were talking about.
I don't think that's the entrance, Chad. I think
it's up here more.
Yep, because they said it was right on his hairline.
Yeah.
Where it had that's back there is not his hairline. I think that was just when that initial concussion inside of his head, when the cavity was opening up in the head. I think it kind of maybe blew a little bit of skull off the side, but I don't think that's the entrance wound on the side. Because if you look up on the top of the hairline by his eyebrow right there, and you were to follow the bullet trajectory, that's when the back of the skull really starts opening up.
Sure.
That's what
that is one thing that they talk about. Parkland. See, I don't know if that's really necessarily it, Jesse, because at Parkland they said they didn't notice the hole up here.
No, because what they kind of talk about that later on in the documentary when they go back to the doctors and they stop talking about the biopsy. When he first came in, right? Um, all that opening there, that's skin. I mean that they were saying that skin and everything, when they were looking at him, they were looking at him from both sides and they weren't up by his head cavity just yet. They were trying to resuscitate him. They didn't
Mhm.
notice all this, and all that wasn't even opened like that. That was the photo that they took in to show the cavity,
Right.
right?
Right. Yep.
So they didn't cut his head open or anything, but when they started messing with his head, they noticed that it was very deformed from the shot. So then they wanted to see like the trajectory or something. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I can't remember. But that wasn't like that when he first came in there.
Yeah. As I recall, that they did not, I guess, notice the hole up by his hairline. They weren't focused on it. What they were focused on, and we kind of went over, didn't talk about it, but he had a hole in his throat. So that was the first thing that they noticed. Obviously, they noticed the hole in the back of his head, but then they also noticed there was a hole right above, I guess, his collar line is what they called it. And all the doctors that were there, with knowing that there was a hole in the back of his head, and they saw that, they thought this was an entrance wound to a gunshot.
Yeah.
And they used that then to do a tracheotomy to go in to get air into his lungs. And that's what they used. And they talked to each other and amongst each other, and we're talking about, hey, that looks like a gunshot entry to us. We've seen multiple gunshot wounds in our career, and we're saying that's what that is. And that's when one of the doctors came out and said, yeah, I said that, and shortly after, and he didn't know if it was a Secret Service guy, if it was CIA or FBI. He had no idea. It was just some dude in a suit. Said, you will never say that was an entrance wound ever again if you know it's good for you.
Yep, they were threatened.
And he just went, okay, I won't do that. So, they had that going on. So there was people there telling them what to say and what to do, and they didn't have a lot of room to do their thing because there was all these people in the room, right? But yeah, so then they realized pretty quickly, after looking into his head, there was a lot of brain missing, right?
Yep.
And you saw the picture of the seat of the car. I mean, dude, there's brain matter and all over the seat, right? So, I mean, he was dead on arrival. There was no doubt. They said they got the EKG once they got the trach in.
Once they got it hooked up, it just was flat.
It was flatline. Yep. So they knew. And then there was some discussion on who was going to be the official person to call him dead, right? And so you had a lot of these, med students and dudes that weren't there very long. They wanted the head doctor to come in and be that person. So they waited almost, it was a long time before someone came in and officially called him dead.
Well, it was actually, which is messed up. When the priest left the room, he's the one that spilled the beans.
He spilled the beans. Well, and I think everybody kind of knew because there was two priests that came to do the last rites. I think it was pretty much common knowledge at that point. If priests are showing up, it's not good, right? But yeah, the priest was the one, like you said. I think he actually got interviewed before the head doctor came out and did the official, whatever you want to call it, conference or whatever. But yeah, the priest was the one that kind of spilled the beans. You're right.
And then, the coroner at the hospital, he said since the president had been shot and killed in Dallas County, that they should be the ones that do the autopsy on the body.
By law, not just be the one. By law, that was.
But he was fighting back against the Secret Service and all the, the agents, and they basically told him to shove it, and they took the body anyway, even though
they literally picked him up.
Yep.
And shoved him up against a wall and said, "We're taking the body."
Yep. And they rushed him to a naval hospital, which is sketchy to me, right? I mean, that's, if that doesn't say cover up, I mean, I don't really know what does.
All right. So yeah, let's go back a little bit. So they get the body out, right?
Yep.
And you caught the part where whoever was flying Air Force One, they've got the recording of him saying, "Okay, we're landing. We're taking the body to that Air Force base."
Yep.
By helicopter.
Yeah.
And the First Lady and the President, which was Johnson at this point, was going to go to the hospital via ambulance.
Yep.
So they get there and they show the footage, the actual footage, and they get this like crane thing that goes up to the back of the plane.
Yeah.
They wheel off this wood coffin, and the First Lady and President Johnson and these other people, they put this coffin in the back of this ambulance, which back then was a hearse. I mean, that's what it was. Yeah. And they put it back there, and they drive to this base. And it takes them like 40 minutes or an hour. I mean, it's a ways away. Then they talk to people who were actually at the base, and they're saying, no, the body came. The body came in a metal coffin and came via helicopter, and they performed. They didn't really say autopsy, but they performed work on the body. The body was there 45 minutes before everybody else was there.
Yeah, and the one autopsy doctor that's still alive from the naval base, he said that they were being told what to do with the body. It wasn't even like an autopsy.
Right.
So they're not trying to figure out wounds or anything like that. They're being told to do certain things to the body to prep it.
So then they interviewed one of the doctors that was there to do the autopsy. And when he went to take the brain out, he said the brain was cut on both, the spinal stem was cut on both sides of the brain. So someone had already gone in there and taken the brain out.
Yep.
And did something. And there was no bullets found in the brain. The brain was pretty much intact from what he was saying and from what the MRIs was showing. So that differed from what the people at Parkland, the doctors, are saying was there was tons of brain matter missing. Yeah. From his right side. Mm-hmm. So when they're looking at the autopsy, they're saying, no way, that's not what we saw when he was here.
Before we continue on that, show them the other picture of when the body gets to the original autopsy at the naval base.
Talking this one here.
Yep. So that's what they're saying the body had looked like when it entered the naval base. Okay. So how do you go from this photo here to the photo previously at Parkland?
To this one.
Exactly. And here's the thing too. That other photo is just from the back of the head.
Right. So how do you know it's really him? That could be anybody.
You don't.
Yeah, that could be anybody.
That goes back to when the original shot hits him. You see his head get separated in the back, and his wife is picking up brain matter. In that documentary, they did a really good job of the close-up of his wife on the back of the car, grabbing pieces of his brain and skull, and they zoomed in a little bit. You can see her doing it.
Right.
So that's not JFK right there. right? That's the photo that they
I
said.
think it could be. I think they could be holding, they could have sewn up the skin of the head to make it stay together. And they're just kind of holding it together. Look at that hand. If you look at, it's holding something, right? That's holding something together there.
Yeah, they are. I guess I see where you're coming from. I don't know, though. Did JFK just not have a neck? Like, what is that?
Yeah, he really didn't have much of a neck. Even if you look at
I'm
this
not trying to be
at this photo, there wasn't much of a neck there.
It just seems like he's got a lot more neck there than in the next photo.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, and then the ears, like look at the back of his ears and then go to the next photo. Look at how pointy his ear is in that photo. And you go to the next photo, they don't look like his ear.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Maybe I'm getting way too into detail with it, but I'm just saying.
We can only judge what we're given, right? It's just you got what you got to work with.
JFK had elf ears, like they're all pointy at the tip right there. And that ear is round. That is a beautifully round ear right there.
Looks like your ear.
Hey, you know what? If we keep talking about this, might be on me on that table.
You never know. You never know, man. So another thing, they do the autopsy then, and there was a bullet entry in his back. And that was one thing at Parkland. They didn't know that. So they didn't even get, they didn't take his clothes off or get that far because there was no need to at that point. They didn't perform the autopsy, but there was a bullet entry. And again, this is all according to the autopsy, the official autopsy, right? So we don't really know. But that's what they claim. So a bullet did go in the back, and this is where they called it the single bullet theory, and then people who are skeptics, they call it the magic bullet theory.
Yep.
And I'm going to go with the magic bullet theory, right? So at this point, they couldn't cover up the hole in the front. So initially, they thought that was just a trach hole. And then when talking with the doctors, they actually had some convergence back and forth between the Parkland doctors and the people doing the autopsy. And, they told them, look, that wasn't from a trach. That was an existing hole. We used it to do the trach. We think that was an entrance wound. Yeah. So then with the magic bullet theory, they said the bullet went in the back, went upwards, took a hard left, and then took a hard right and went out his throat. So came in here and came out here. That's just, don't know how that happens. And if you look, you hunt, right, Jesse? You hunt. The entrance is always smarter than smaller than the exit. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's always smaller than the exit.
Yeah.
So if this is an exit wound, he would have no neck. It would have got blown up.
It depends on the cartridge, right? So,
understand, but if it's doing all this stuff and moving, dude, that and the caliber that he was using, no. it wouldn't have been a little dinky hole like it was.
No, because it was a 7.62 round, so it was a 30 caliber round. They're claiming that he had shot out of that rifle, and a 30 caliber round like that, it's going to go straight in, straight out, and yeah, the exit wound's going to be larger than the entrance wound, and they're claiming that, well, the shot was a ways away, so the one bullet theory, that the guys that believe it, they say, well, the shot was from farther away. I did a little research into it, and they're saying so it lost like some ballistics, like some
velocity,
right? So they're thinking that since it had lost some velocity and some, energy, that it could have, hit a rib and went up, and that doesn't happen. Not with a 30 caliber round. And you know what? People will say that about 5.56, right? They'll say 5.56, it's a maiming round.
Mm-hmm.
And when 5.56 hits you, it keyholes and it can go any direction. That's just not true either. Yeah, it keyholes. The exit wound's bigger, but it doesn't, bounce around in the body like people claim 22s do when they go into somebody. That doesn't happen either.
Now, hey, I'm going to tell you that does happen. My cousin shot himself with a 22, dicking around. And I can't remember where it went in and where it either went in up here and exited down on his leg, or it went in his leg and exited up here. But it went in and didn't hit a single vital organ. And he's lucky to live. And he was a kid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does happen. I mean, I'm telling you, I know that happens. My cousin did that.
The chances of a 22 doing that, though, is slim to none. I mean, you can shoot a 2x4 with a 22, and the 22 round goes straight through the treated 2x4.
Yep.
Well, It still has enough velocity that it should go in and come out, right? I mean, am I saying that the 22 doesn't do that at all? I've never seen it, okay? I've shot animals with 22s, okay? I've never seen it come into the animal and leave in a completely different direction. But humans are bigger animals. I've never shot an animal this size with a 22, so
right.
I don't know.
Deer. You've shot deer.
Not with a 22, I don't.
Oh, not with 22, but you've shot a deer.
Yeah, I've shot. Okay, so
you're using a higher powered gun, though.
Yeah, I'm using a 12 gauge slug, so it's a little different, right? But like when the 12 gauge slug will hit a deer in the chest cavity, right, and you lung them, the entrance wound is the exact same size as the slug, right? But the exit, I mean, what was the exit wound on that doe I just shot? Probably about 3 inches wide. Blew a nice hole out the back of it.
Yeah.
So, and the thing that's weird to me about that, they should have explained more in the Parkland aspect, right? So they say that they didn't see the back shot, right, with the rifle round.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have his shirt off doing chest compressions and.
Well, they didn't turn him over. They said they didn't want to because of the head injury. They didn't want to turn him and move him. You know, they wanted to move him as little as possible, so they didn't turn him.
Okay, but great. There should be an exit wound on his chest. They shot him in the back.
Right. Or it didn't come out.
It came out. There's no way. I mean, a 30 caliber round hitting a soft tissue human body, it's coming out the front.
Right.
I mean, you
hit your back though, you're probably hitting bone somewhere, right? So you don't know where that sucker's going. It could have came down and came out of his asshole. You don't know. I mean, you don't know where that thing came out.
Yeah, listen, when you get done with this, I want you to go watch like 30-06 penetration videos, because I believe that's what he shot out of that. Hey,
we're not condoning porn here.
Okay, it's a bullet Get your mind out of it. All right, you're taking, like, they'll shoot cinder blocks. They'll line up a bunch of cinder blocks, right? And the 30-06 will go through 2 or 3 cinder blocks, or a cinder block and a half or whatever. The human body, if it's going through 2.5 cinder blocks, it's not going to stop in a human body.
But Jesse, you don't understand. So the dude had magic bullets. The guy that was shooting.
He had magic bullets.
Right. So it could turn, it was juking. It was making you go this way while it went this way. It was doing that kind of thing.
And here's another thing. What if the shooter that was behind him, right, it wasn't Oswald, okay? And it was someone with a handgun, and then I can see if they're using like a hollow point round, why it didn't come out the front. But they don't specify diameters in Parkland, right? So they don't tell you how big the entrance wound was on his neck.
Right. Well, they didn't do an autopsy, right? And they already ruined that hole by doing their trach. They said they had to cut a little bit, and did some stuff. So, and the guy even said, had they have known all this stuff, they'd have done something different. They'd have gone a different way.
I understand that they didn't do an autopsy, right? But that me and Ross mutually know a guy through the place that I take Gita, my protection dog, for training. He's one of my dog trainer's good friends, and we see him out there. He's a surgeon in Memphis, right? So he does surgeries on people that get shot. I mean, he's probably done thousands of gunshot wounds, right? Thousands of them. He's not a guy that does autopsies, but when guys come in, he can tell if that was a pistol cartridge or if that was a rifle round. He can tell you, right? Because he's done it 1,000. And those guys in Parkland, that they say that they're like, we do thousands of gunshot wounds a year.
Right?
So you're telling me that they can't look at you and be like, well, that's clearly a shot from a rifle, or that's clearly a shot from a pistol, or I mean, obviously the diameter of the entrance wound with a pistol cartridge is going to be wider, right?
Sure.
Rifles are going to be a little bit thinner, and if it's a shotgun, you're going to know.
It obviously probably depends on where it enters too, right? I mean, the style of tissue and all that probably determines the size that it's going in. I mean, if you had a belly shot, it's probably different than if you had something with, like your back or something where there was bone.
I know this sounds stupid, but like guys that shoot a lot of guns, right? If I put a piece of cardboard up or any material and I were to shoot it, any guy that shoots a lot can come up and be like, oh, that was a pistol cartridge. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was some kind of a rifle. It was either 30 caliber. It's not a 22 caliber because 22 is very thin. 5.56 is considered a 22 diameter round, right? So it could either, with a 22 caliber rifle, it could be a 243, 5.56, 22, just the diameter of the entrance hole. Now, the exit hole is where you're going to know, okay, that entrance wound is a 22 diameter, but the exit's pretty nice, right? It's a pretty big exit wound. That's probably a varmint round. So 5.56, 243, 223, whatever. Okay. Pistol, same thing, right? So 45, a lot thicker in diameter, 9mm, a little bit less thick, but hey, there it is. So you can't tell me that a doctor that does thousands of gunshot wounds.
Maybe, and that kind of leads me into this, and we didn't really touch on this. So the autopsy, the people who performed the autopsy, none of them were forensic doctors.
No, they weren't. They were corpsmen.
Yes. So, I would like to think that you're right on that, but I don't know if, I don't know. I think about it as being a doctor. You're probably not putting a lot of time on what kind of gun that was. You're working just to save someone's life. I think what you're saying is someone who does that for a living, a forensic doctor, would know that, right? Someone who looks at that and that's his job is to know that was this gun, that they used this bullet. I know the caliber. With a high degree of certainty, it's this.
I know what you're saying, but the doctors in Parkland even said they remember every detail because it's traumatic seeing the U.S. president come in on a table.
Sure.
So they even said they can. That one doctor, he said, I still remember the smell of the room.
Sure.
So you're telling me you still remember all this, but you can't just say, hey, this is this.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know if he would be able to pinpoint the caliber of bullet, or you know what I'm saying. I don't know if that guy is the guy to tell you that versus a forensic doctor, and why. You have the president of the United States being shot. Why are you not having the best of the best in there performing that autopsy? Explain that one to me. I mean, I think I know why. Yeah, it's covered, right? I mean, they want it to be what they want it to be, right? They're using dudes that they can tell, you do this, it's going to be this, and that's it.
Yep. Yeah. And the guys that did the forensic autopsy or whatever, they said that they felt like they brought them there because the military back then was, you're going to do this or it's going to get really ugly for you.
Right.
And what are they going to say? No. I mean, yeah, you're
Well,
going to.
what would you have said when you were in the Army? Would you have said, hey, dude, I'm doing it the right way?
No.
You just said, yes,
I'd
sir.
be like, okay,
Yep,
Roger, let's sew them up.
I got you.
Well, because you can't. I mean, I don't care what anybody says, and you'll get people that are currently in the military or were in recently, and they'll say, oh, I kind of did what I want. No, you didn't. Okay. And if you say that, you probably weren't in the military because I never saw people that got to get their way all the time and got away with it. Roger. So let's not go play that card where you're like, oh, I was a rebel in the military. No, you weren't. Okay. To a degree, maybe. Maybe they tell you to do something and you kind of do it, 10 minutes later than they asked. But you're not going to have the president show up on your desk and they're going to be like, you're going to sew this up or it's going to get ugly. And you're like, I'm not doing it. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you will. Or you're going to be on that table with them.
That would never happen.
Yeah.
I can't believe you would even say that.
Uh, hey man, I've watched soldiers tell higher NCOs no, and I've watched them get their nose broke before. Okay, you're just gonna do it, right? And I'm not saying that happened a lot. I mean, I had a pretty good experience in the Army. I'm not saying it was bad. I had a great time, met good people, but I'm also not working on a president when they're trying to cover stuff up. So I think the viscosity of what you're gonna do in that situation is a little bit different than, hey, Bridwell, take these weapons up to the arms room. Okay. You know, I mean, you're going to do it, but in that situation, when they're trying to cover something up already, I think you're going to do it. You don't want to be a
Well,
part of the cover up.
right. Well, and you want to live, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you want to go and have dinner when you get off and all that. See your kids and your wife, and so yeah,
I think
you're
that's a
probably
little
gonna
bit
do.
different.
Yeah.
You know what? That back then, too, in the 60s, the Army was different, right?
Well, people were different. People,
Yeah.
it was country first, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we're that way anymore. So I mean, think of this. So my father-in-law went on just recently. He served in Vietnam, and he went on I don't even know what it's called, where they fly him to D.C. and they see the monuments. So he just went on that, and there was a guy because we were talking how many World War II vets are still alive, and he had to know, he knew, but there was a dude there that was a World War II vet,
Really?
and yep, and he was telling my father-in-law how he was 14 years old and he lied about his age to
Yep.
join the army. I
Yeah.
mean, they were turning kids away during World War II to join the army. That wouldn't happen today. I mean, you wouldn't have people beating down the door to join if there was a war. Guarantee it.
Well, okay, so here's the thing, too. You can't really lie about your age anymore.
Right, right. No, I get you, but you understand what I'm saying. I mean, there was a sense of duty that we just don't have anymore. There was a love for your
There's also
country and all
there's
that.
also a big lack of trust in the government these
Well,
days.
there's that too, but that's kind of a sense of duty too. I mean, it was country first. It was family, country. Well, it was God, country, family. I don't know how you want what order, but it
Yeah.
was those things. It was those three things, and we don't have that anymore. And it's sad in a way. I mean, I think some of it's good too. I think it's totally fine to not trust your country. I mean, to question what's going on. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we didn't have that back then. I mean, but we didn't have the information either, right? I mean,
No.
information's everything. We have information instantly now. I mean,
Well,
they
it's
read
a
about it.
it's a lot easier to lie to your country back then versus now.
Sure. Right.
So,
Right.
of course, you don't have people beating down the door to go join the military when the government right now is, sending billions of dollars to Ukraine when they could be spending that money on things that we need in this country right now. Like, I could name off 1,000 different things, right?
Right. Right.
The homeless population. How about the southern border? How about the drug problem we have today? I mean, you can name off a million things in this country that those billions of dollars would have been great for, but
Right.
instead they're sending it to Ukraine, and they're trying to make it seem like Ukraine's this good country. They were one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. And here's another thing about Ukraine everybody doesn't want to talk about, okay? Ukraine, their government is a substitutional government that we put in place. And those people, you think you were just sending that money over there to help them. We're not. We're sending billions of dollars over there. And let's say we send $72 billion over there. Well, 30 billion of that comes right back to the US government untraced, okay, in their own pockets. So it's a government we put in place, and they listen to us. We tell them what to do, right? That money's not just going to the war, okay? Zelensky's pocketing a lot of it. He's a corrupt politician. He used to be a movie star in
Right.
Ukraine.
Yep.
Now he's the president? Like, how does that make any sense?
Hey, Ronald Reagan, he was a movie star. He was our
And
president.
then Zelensky gets on the TV and says, hey, if you guys don't start sending more money, your young kids and women will be over here fighting just like ours are. Who in the fuck are you to tell me my kid's going to go over there and fight your war? How about you just get taken over and shut the fuck up? How's that sound? My kid's not coming over to fight your war, and I'm not going over there either. So I'll wait. I mean, he says if we get taken over, the whole world's next. Hey, brother, I mean, I'm going to stay right where I'm at, and if it comes our way, it comes our way. I'll dig my boots in the ground where I'm at. But I'm not going over there and fighting your war.
You should help a brother out, Jesse.
Nope, I'm good, man. I'm not doing it. I got other stuff going on.
So, all right, back to JFK. So the big question is, and this is what everybody wants to know, is who did it and why. So, you had a great little video, and one of the things you think is the driver might have done something. You want to play that video?
I do think so.
You want to play that?
Yeah, we can. And you do bring up a point here, right? You think it's probably a glare. So one, you don't hear the first shot. So let's go back to here when he's not holding his neck. All right. He's not holding his neck. Now he is.
You got to share your video. Share your screen.
Dang it. Sorry. My bad. Screen.
We're new at this, man.
Yeah, we are. We're working on it here. All right. So he is currently, look at him now. He's waving at people. He gets into the sign, right?
Yeah, right about there is when he gets shot.
Yep. And I think he just gets hit like right before he gets out of the sign.
Yep. Because he's holding his neck.
He's still alive. Okay. Now his wife has started to notice something's going on. So she kind of leans over. I want you to pay attention to the driver. Do you see the smoke come out of the front seat? I know it's kind of hard with this video. Why is there smoke right here?
That isn't smoke. I think that's his brain.
You think so?
Yep, I think that's his brain.
Do you see kind of how the driver leans back?
Yep, he's looking back. But notice too though, he goes back and to his left. He doesn't come forward.
No, he didn't get shot from behind. Clearly. And now look at his wife. She's picking up brain matter. She's not helping the guy on the back of the car. She's not doing any of that. She's retrieving stuff. And then she gets back into the car. And then when she shows up to Parkland, right? She hands him the piece of skull and brain matter.
Yeah, hands the doctor some skull and brain matter. Yep.
Why?
Again, I'm going with shock. I think she was in shock. I think
that's just such a.
I think she didn't know what was going on and what to do.
People do different things when they're in shock. I get it. I just find it hard to believe that that's what you're worried about at that moment, like grabbing and maybe I'm completely wrong. I have no idea.
I can tell you this. So when I had my house fire, I called 911. I couldn't tell them my address. I knew my address, but I couldn't tell them.
Well,
It took me 3 times to do it. So, I mean, you're gonna do goofy things, I think, and to, I guess, pick her apart because she did that. Who knows what you would do? I mean, I don't know.
Here's another thing about it that's weird. She gets to the hospital and shows no remorse at all. She's shaking other people's hands and they're talking, and she's talking about like what she did last week.
Yeah.
Your husband's brain matters all over the operating table, and that's what you're talking about. To me, that's...
And again, I think that's shock. I'm going to go with shock. People handle things. And again, the thing that they talked about with her was I think she kind of knew that this was a good chance that something like this would happen.
Okay, what happened to his wife after that?
Like what? What do you mean?
Who'd she get married to? Where'd she end up?
Yeah, I don't remember who she got married to after that. Do you have that information?
I'm looking it up. JFK's wife. She decided to begin a new career. She accepted a job as an editor at the Viking Press, New York City, and later moved to Doubleday as a senior editor. She enjoyed a successful career in publishing until her death in May 1994. Was she an editor before, or was that kind of like a perk? Hey, your husband got smoked. So,
I don't know.
Hey, keep your mouth shut, get you a nice job. Successful.
It might be.
I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
Maybe she had no idea. I don't know. They even said it in the documentary. She just seemed way too calm for what was going on.
Right.
Not crying, laughing, talking about what she's doing last week. That's a little weird.
Yeah, again, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you'd handle it. I don't know what I would do. I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't know. It would be hard. And how you would handle it. And then you're the first lady, right? You got to show like you're, distinguished and not show fear and emotion. And, I just don't know.
I'd be shocked if you shaved your beard. So finding it hard to believe how old lady didn't know.
Maybe I'll do that next week and shock you. I'll shock the nation.
You're going to shock the nation? Well, save it then, I guess. But you know what? And I think Neil deGrasse Tyson would even be, if we were talking about this, he'd even say it's weird how the old lady didn't really care.
Yeah, I don't know what O'Neill would say to this. He would probably say it didn't happen. There's no evidence of any of it. And that is weird that we would even think that the president would look like us. So
Yeah.
O'Neill. We need to get Neil on. Hey, who we should get on for just a little bit is that doctor that you said and just get his 2 cents worth in on bullet holes and stuff. Yeah.
Can we get Frank on here? He'd tell you about some gunshot wounds, and he'll tell you that's BS.
Yeah, no, that would be good. And then, then we get it from a doctor, not just 2 jackasses that are on a podcast.
Frank's actually a very intelligent man. Sometimes when he says things, I have to take a step back and be like, hey, you need to bring that down to earth a little bit here.
Take her down about 60%?
Yeah, take her down. I mean, not everybody has an education like you, brother.
Hey, why don't I do something and you tell the folks about our website or our email again and about some videos.
Is it at
Send in some videos at Outlook.
Okay. So a while back we started an email for this rig, and I did not put it in the first time right. So, sorry, I'm moving something off here. And I when I put it into the comment section, YouTube deleted it because I'm not allowed to have it in the comments, I guess. So then I made a post about it, but when I made the post, I made the email wrong. I put it as Shock the Nation 2023 at live.com. It's actually at outlook.com. No caps, no spaces. Just Shock the Nation 2023 at outlook.com. If you guys want to send in any videos or on a like how do you know that subject, so like if you want to hear about different topics, or and you can even make a video and we'll use you for the intro video, so you could have what you want us to talk about in a video format, and we'll put it as our intro, and then we'll go into the subject you want talked about. So like I said, it is Shock the Nation, Shock the Nation 2023 at outlook.com. Send us a video and we'll put it in here.
Heck yeah! Did you
I did.
tell them that we would like some videos of any strange phenomenon too that we can put on and talk
anything
about?
strange. Like
You know,
your friend saw something weird and he wants to talk about it and wonder how do you know that? Send it in the email and we'll upload it down here, and then we'll
Shock the Nation 2023 at outlook.com.
Yep, that is it. And no dick pics.
Yeah, no. I mean, you could send those to Ross. We can maybe
Ross will
put
probably
that
take
email
those.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ross will take the Sauce Boss. They call him the Sauce Boss for a reason.
Yeah. There's a reason for that. So Jesse, what do you thinking the whole reason? You know, who was behind it? You know, if it wasn't just, and I think you and I are in agreement here that it wasn't. If it was Lee Harvey, it wasn't just him alone. He did not act alone. We think there was another shooter, but why? What was the purpose? You know, who was behind it?
Okay, so there's the Federal Reserve argument, right? So John F. Kennedy was arguing against the Federal Reserve, right? He doesn't believe that anyone should have power over the economy like the Federal Reserve does, right?
Okay.
He wanted to get rid of that. That's a thing that people argue a lot on. He wanted to abolish the CIA, right? And the secretive parts of the government. He wanted to get rid of that. That would be a reason. He didn't want anything to do with Nam. Okay, so he wanted out of that. So the military complex comes into the talks, right? There's a lot of people he made enemies with right when he got in. He just said, I don't like the Federal Reserve, I don't like the CIA, and we're not going to Nam. I mean,
So think about this too. I'm going to throw in a little bit is, you know, Bobby was a big anti-mob guy, right? So he fought the mob, and he ended up dying too, right? Someone killed him. And so you throw the mob in there, and then with all the stuff that you were saying, who controls all that, Jesse? Who's behind that? And I think you already said it was the CIA. I mean, the CIA, I believe, controls the mob. They control the wars. I mean, they're a big. They orchestrate them, I believe, or have a big part of it. You know, they're part of the industrial, military complex. So if anybody was going to do something like that, I think the CIA was behind it. I really do. Mm-hmm. And, and I can't remember how many, it wasn't all that long ago, Trump was president. He could have declassified all of the JFK stuff, everything that they had, and he didn't. He put it back on. I think it's another 15 years or something like that before it comes back out. So there's something there, right? There's something there that he's, even the president went, yeah, we don't want that out. There's something there. So look, I mean, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, sounds like a duck, it's a duck. Yep. There's something there. I mean, if it wasn't a government coup or government assassination, let it out, right? I mean,
yeah, but you know, I get what you're saying. I also think there's probably some more. I bet that leads into other things, right?
And it very well could.
I guarantee it. I mean, I'm sure there's more reasons why they're not just releasing that information. Maybe it leads into something else that's even crazier, right?
Right.
So, for Trump to not go ahead and by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but the JFK, the John F. Kennedy family was actually very good personal friends with Trump's family. Okay, so he knew them growing or his family knew them for a long period of time. The Kennedy that's running for 2024, he actually grew up with Trump. They actually went to private school together. Okay, they were friends growing up. That's why you don't really see them two bash each other so much in the media. They might a little bit, or they'll say something, but it's not like derogatory. They just say they don't agree with each other's policies on certain things, but that's not normal for Trump. He bashes everybody, right? So when anybody stands against Trump, he's like, he's probably gay, like he'll start taking shots at him. He doesn't take shots at Kennedy because they are friends. And for him to not let those documents go, there's probably a pretty big reason why.
Sure. And I would think too. And I would think it would, as you say, maybe lead into other areas that they don't want people digging around, or, you know what I mean? It's something bigger than just that. I mean, no doubt. And because, if you think about who could still even be alive that could have been part of that. Maybe there is, and maybe that's why. I don't know.
Okay, well, there's also those doctors were still alive. So
sure, yeah. So there could be some people still alive. So it may have something to do with that too, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just a to believe what the Warren Commission came out with is, and I don't know anybody who believes that. I mean, I just don't. On that movie, they had that forensic doctor. He said, "Yep, that's right. It looked good." And that guy is like the best forensic doctor in the world. I've seen documentaries with that guy. That guy's a brainiac. So, maybe he's in on it too, right?
Well, I think anybody that agrees with the magic bullet theory they're in on it, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if he really ever said that he agreed with that, but he was going with, the MRIs or the X-ray. I don't know if they had MRIs then, but the X-ray of the brain and the skull, and he's like, look, these, based on all this is right, and I have no reason to doubt it. But yeah, but I do know that guy's brilliant. I mean, I've seen stuff with him, and
yeah,
the guy's a man. Now he didn't invent anything. He had no theories like like Neil deGrasse did. So I can't put him in that category. But
he's never gonna let that go. Never gonna let it go.
I gotta quit picking on Neil. Neil's a good guy. We had a beer last week. I mean, we're working through some stuff. Me and Neil.
Yeah, I'm sure he's real tight with you after the last video.
Hey, I do have a question for you though. Your dogs are barking now. My dogs are barking, but
yeah.
I've got a something for you for the how do you know that part of the show. So, hey, do you know who is the largest landowner in the world? And does Ross, the sauce boss, know without looking it up?
Do you know who the largest landowner in the world is?
I do not.
He does not. Why don't you explain it? I think I know, but why don't you explain it?
So the largest landowner in the world right now, and probably will always be, is King Charles. King Charles owns the most land of anyone in the world. He owns 6.6 billion acres of land.
Yeah.
He owns over 90% of the land in Canada.
Really?
That's a lot of land, dude. So you look at that, right? So you look at who the largest land, and number two, who do you think number two is?
Number two
Yeah.
of the largest landowners.
Yeah. And this isn't a person. So
It's the Chinese party.
No, it's the
Really?
Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is number two. And they're coming in at 177 million acres. So number two has 177 million acres. Number one, 6.6 billion acres.
Yeah.
That's a big discrepancy between one and two.
Yeah.
So with that being said, how is King Charles not the richest man in the world?
Because they don't. Okay, so my banker had talked to me about this, right, when I had started the farm. And he said one way to, right? So land, if you purchase land, it gets you out of buying or paying taxes right off the bat.
Yep, it's a tax write-off.
Yep. So land is an amazing investment because, one, it's always going to be worth something, and land always goes up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now that people argue that, they'll say, well, the housing market, we're not talking about the housing market.
You're talking about land.
Okay. So I don't want someone in the comments saying, well, the housing market crashed. Well, land didn't. So there you go. And another thing too is you can't measure somebody's wealth, right? You will not hop up in tax brackets just because you own a bunch of land. Because, and here's why, you have to have an assessor come out and assess it. And that is private knowledge between you and the assessor, right?
Sure.
So you can't assess his value. His taxes won't continue to rise, right? And that's the reason why they purchase. Well, and it's not just that. King Charles owns a bunch of land because at one point in time, the British Parliament owned most. I mean, they colonized so many places. Right. What do you think they did? This is mine. Right. This piece is mine. It's still yours over here. Yeah, he owns all that land. I mean, yeah, he colonized everything.
I mean, all I'm getting at is, Jesse, is when they come up who the richest person in the world is, they're talking money. So if land has always gone up in price, the richest person is King Charles. If you were just to look at a value, I mean, he has something.
Yeah. Okay. So
he has something.
I think
he's got land.
I think the Catholic Church probably has more money than King Charles.
Oh, okay. King Charles is only worth $500 million. So, I disagree with that. King Charles is worth all the money in the world almost. He's got 6.6 billion acres of land.
Yeah, I would have to say, okay, so let's ask you this. What of that land that he owns, okay, what of that is put into, is all that land in a trust? Is it
I don't know. Here's my guess. So my guess is Canada pays him rent, right? He gets rent, which is weird. So, think about that. It's Canada. They're a country. They're their own country, but they don't own 90% of their land.
Okay,
that's weird to me.
Okay, yes, but
it's weird to me.
You ever heard there was a guy, he was talking about this. He doesn't think that Rome ever fell. And here's why he thinks that. He thinks that Rome just became the Catholic Church. Okay? He thinks, because if you were to go down, and why are they so secretive about what's down in their
catacombs, in the catacombs,
and all that Roman gold and everything? They think that's down in there. And here's the thing: they have so much. So what's that saying? The Catholic Church is worth $30 billion of what they can track, right? So $30 billion. Okay, but that's BS. I mean, they're worth more. But the influence the Catholic Church has around the world, that's right. They don't think Rome fell. People say, oh yeah, they fell. But the Catholic Church became so big that so much influence everywhere, and no one messes with the Catholic Church, right? They don't get taxed. No one fucks with them, right?
Right.
So I don't see anybody going and, you know what? If I were to have a secret vault that had so much shit in it and everyone wanted to know what was in there, the government comes seize and assist, baby. Let me see what's in there. They're not doing that to the Catholic Church. I think the Catholic Church owns a lot more than what people want to put out there. I mean, they run governments.
Well, sure they do. I mean, they're in the ear of a lot of leaders, right? I mean, they just are. They're the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And they hire, so their bodyguards are hired by the Swiss, right? The Swiss armed guard, isn't that who walks around the Vatican?
I don't know any of that.
Yeah, I think it is. And yeah, they're bad dudes. You don't mess with the Swiss armed guard.
Well, you don't want to mess with the Catholic Church. I mean, I don't think anyone does.
You know,
But,
speaking of the Catholic Church, why does the Catholic Church have one of the largest telescopes in the world?
I don't know. I've heard that. That was something that I watched the Joe Rogan Experience a lot. So
Yeah.
they talk about that. They have one of the largest telescopes in the world, and they named it Lucifer or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I just find that odd. There's something weird about that. Something very weird about that. But
Well,
hey,
I don't.
what do I know?
Well, I don't know anything about it. I just know they have a large telescope that's named Lucifer. So, that's cool, I guess.
So do we got any more on the old JFK that you want to delve into?
Well, okay, let me ask you this. So, is it Robert F. Kennedy is running in 2024?
Yeah, so that would be Bobby Kennedy's kid, right? So
Yep.
that would be John's brother, his son.
Let me ask you this. Why is the Democratic Party trying to push him out so hard when he's a Democrat?
Yeah, but I don't think he's running Democrat, right?
Yes,
No.
he is.
I thought he was going independent.
Still running Democrat.
Okay. Well, they're pushing him out because they want Biden to run.
They're not. That's not the reason. Biden's not running.
You don't think so? So why do you think they're pushing him out?
They're pushing the California governor pretty hard, right?
Hmm.
Did you see how when is it Xi Jinping, the Chinese dictator, right?
Mhm.
So when he came to San Francisco, they had a homeless problem like crazy through there. And the California governor cleaned up San Francisco for him to show up. I mean, no homeless there in that area where he showed up. None. There's Chinese flags all over San Francisco. And he got a lot of crap for that. He's like, so you're going to fly Chinese flags all over there, clean the city up. I mean, you've been asked to clean that city up for freaking years. Years. And all of a sudden the Chinese dictator's coming over here and you're going to clean everything up, put Chinese flags everywhere, and you're going to welcome him there like that's his state. That's, and why is the California governor going to meetings with Xi Jinping? Why?
Yeah. Now, could be because world economy isn't like California like in the top 10 just by themselves. So
California?
could it be? Yeah. So could it be
No.
just that?
No,
I thought they were.
no, they're not in the top 10. You can look it up. I'm pretty sure they're not though. By themselves?
I thought just the economy of California was
Sauce
so
is
big.
looking it up. Sauce is looking it up. What are you seeing?
I'm just seeing countries. I'm not seeing anything about individual states.
It's not saying anything about states, but
Yeah, I thought at one point in time I had heard like that they were just the economy of California alone was bigger than a lot of countries.
Maybe back in like the 80s when California was actually nice.
Maybe, I don't know, but I do know that just because of that, maybe I could see where he's doing that, but it still doesn't make sense. I mean, the governor of Arkansas or the governor of Iowa wouldn't be hanging out with the the leader of China for any reason whatsoever.
All right, so it's the largest economy in the United States. So the economy of the state of California is the largest in the United States with 3.8 trillion gross state product as of 2023.
Yeah. So again, I think they're way bigger than most countries. Just California alone is bigger than most countries.
You're not the president.
I know, and I get that. I do.
You're
I do.
Governor, and you're meeting with Xi Jinping, and now you're running for president after you meet with Xi Jinping.
Well,
seriously though, I mean,
maybe there's some of this going on. Who knows?
Well, I'm sure there's money being given to him by China. Hey, run for president, please, so we can get our policies pushed where we want it.
So why? So how does that have to do with Bobby and all that?
Well, here's the thing: they don't want.
Robert.
Robert talks a lot about like big pharma. Like he talks about how that's a problem in this country. He talks about he himself said right when he announced he was running, the first thing he wants to do is get rid of the secretive part of the government, so the CIA. And what does the FBI really even do now, right? Except for cover stuff up for the government anymore. I mean, he wants to get rid of the FBI. And he said that openly. Okay, so that right there is probably why they don't want him to run. And he talks about the border crisis. Poland, he's going to stop the Ukraine war. Okay, that's what he wants to do. That right there is a no-no for the military-industrial complex. So, no, you're not running on their end. Okay, and he's not a government's man. He's a countryman. So
he's a countryman? He's a country boy?
No, a countryman. He's a patriot. He doesn't want to go by the government policies.
So is he a proud boy then? Is that what you're saying? Is he like a proud boy?
Don't go push. I mean, I'm trying not to get canceled. He's not a proud boy.
He might be proud.
By the way, that is in YouTube's community guidelines. No talking about that.
Oh, okay. I'm just asking if he was. I'm not promoting. I mean, I didn't know.
He was actually part of Antifa.
Was he?
Yeah. He was throwing bricks through windows and beating up poor innocent women trying to walk to their car.
Well, that happens sometimes.
I'll probably have to edit that out.
Yeah, that's fine. You can edit mine out too. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm probably going to edit that out. I'm trying to keep this show on the road.
So, hey, all right, if we're done with JFK, we can get into, we can play, if you can splice it in, that intro on what does Waco stand for.
Okay.
So, Waco stands for we ain't gonna come out, is what he said. And this has nothing to do with your sexual preference. It's about the siege that happened in Waco. And they weren't coming out, man. They were in there, man. They were in there for 51 days.
Yeah.
It was a 51-day standoff.
Yeah.
And I remember this, Jesse. I remember watching this on TV live as it was happening, and it was crazy, man. The what was it? The ATF went in to go get David Koresh because he had a lot of guns, and this is what they're saying. They went in because he had a lot of guns, and it was a compound, and they heard all these stories that he was going to try to overthrow the government, all this crazy stuff. And what was weird though, it was either the day before or the same day. David Koresh was in town at the post office.
Really?
And they could have just arrested him right there. And they knew him. They were following him. I mean, they had every opportunity to get him, and they didn't do it. They waited. They waited till he got back, and they came to get him, and shots were fired, man. And it was a big old standoff. But yeah, so a lot of people died in this, and I guess the conspiracy theory here is at the end that they caused a gas leak, and they took a tank and they poked holes all around this compound, and then they shot in there to set it afire. Now, all the agents claim they didn't shoot once they knew there was a gas leak, but someone did. Someone started that fire.
Well, okay, so I watched a documentary about it like a long time ago. They had an ATF agent that was on the south side of the house, like I think 300 meters out. He's a trained sniper, and David Koresh had came up to one of the windows, and he was standing in front of the window, and he had a vivid picture of him in the scope. He called in and asked for permission to shoot and just kill him, right, and be done with the whole thing. And they told him he didn't have permission to fire. So
And this is after they already had a gunfight, right? And Koresh had already been shot, right? So he had been shot and was in bad shape. He was not in good shape. The dude wasn't going to make it.
Yeah, so he was standing in front of the window, and the ATF, that sniper, is like, I can see him. Like, I can take this shot, and this will all be over. And they denied his request to shoot. So, isn't that crazy?
It's nuts. And, what was it? There were 75 total deaths of the Branch Davidians that died. 25 of them were kids. Or no, I take it back. 82 deaths. 28 were kids.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, now granted, not saying that I could have done any better or whatever, but what do you do in that situation? I mean, you've got all that happens.
They didn't have medical personnel. You already shot them. Let them die.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, do you just let it go and let them die, and wait it out, or do you do what they did? I mean,
well, okay, so the ATF, they won't openly say this, but there's documentation of them, all through the night playing like really loud, horrific stuff at night to, keep them up and keep them.
Right.
Is that really necessary? The guy's already shot. They took their tank and they were running over all the kids, the playgrounds and stuff outside, running over all the vehicles outside. And like, why? I mean, the guy's shot, he's bleeding out, and the only person in there that has any leeway over all those people is David Koresh. If he dies, are they just going to stay in that house and starve?
Absolutely not.
No, they're coming out.
Right.
So why do all that extra stuff? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. It was messed up. And it sounds like World War II upstairs. Do you hear all that?
Yeah, the dog. Yeah. I'm surprised my dogs didn't throw as big of a fit as I thought they were when the wife got home. So
yeah, so I don't know, man. I know there was more to all this. I mean, and I'm trying to remember who the FBI, who was in charge.
At first it was the FBI, but the ATF took over
right
as time went on, and it was over the firearms thing. He had a bunch of firearms or whatever, but I don't think they were so much concerned about them just having firearms. It was the fact that they had automatic firearms and they had grenades.
Grenades. Yeah. No. Yeah. I did not know that. So can a person buy grenades? I mean, can you legally buy grenades?
I don't think he bought them legally. No, you can't buy. You can't legally buy grenades. No, you can't legally do that. But I'm sure he had, some. I mean, black market. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're in Texas. I don't know. I don't know how he got the grenades.
Maybe it's legal in Texas.
It's not legal in Texas.
Everything's bigger in Texas. I didn't know if you knew that. So maybe the law's bigger there, so you can buy grenades.
Well, hey, I give Texas props though. They fought back against the ATF, and they're winning in court about the suppressor law. So
really,
yep, you're about to be able to, if you live in Texas, you're a resident of Texas, you're about to be able to buy a suppressor and not have to wait. You go in the store, pick out your suppressor, and walk out that day.
So explain to everybody what a suppressor is.
Suppressor, okay, so some people know them as silencers. They're not silencers, okay? In real life, like the movies in Hollywood that you watch where they go, that's not true. That's not how that works, actually. The gun is still loud, okay? Some, like for instance, 5.56, you're still going to have to wear hearing protection. It's still going to ring your ears a little bit, but does it quiet the firearm up? Yeah, normally about like 65 decibels, right? Or 40 decibels, or however much it lowers it. It doesn't lower it all the way. You're not just pulling, unless you have like 300 blackout and subsonic rounds, still not going to be completely silent, but it's going to be pretty quiet. 300 blackout, you don't have to wear hearing protection because it's a subsonic round. But suppressor is what they're mainly made for, and the military used them for if you're fighting at night. The gases at the end of your gun don't make a big fireball, and then people can't tell where you're shooting at. And yes, the sound is suppressed. So if I was shooting at someone at 300 or 400 yards, at night, they're going to hear like a faint pop. It's going to be harder for them to decipher where I'm at. They don't see a muzzle flash. So there's that. And it's just a can at the end of your gun. So that's what a suppressor is. But the ATF is illegally making you, like I've ordered suppressors. I have to wait 6 to 8 months to get my suppressor, which is ridiculous because they do all these background checks and whatever. But what is dumb about it, like if you get like a federal level carry permit, right? So in Arkansas now, everybody can carry a gun. You don't need a license, but if you want like your higher end carry permit, right? You've got to take a class and then they run a background check on you, and which is dumb. It's a federal background check even for that. But you get it back in a day.
Really?
Is it a day, Ross? So why is it taking 8 months just so I can get a suppressor, right? I mean, it doesn't need to take that long. And here's the dumb thing about it. The ATF has a quota from the government of how many they have to get done per month. And sometimes if they're a little behind, guys will go in and order their suppressor one day and they'll get it back in a month. So it doesn't need to take that long. They're just being pricks. Let's put it that way.
You'll have that, Jesse.
Yeah. It's an accessory too. So it's not a firearm, but they're making it out to be like you're buying a freaking tank. Like I've got to wait to, I can go into a gun store in Arkansas right now, fill out some paperwork. They'll run the background check right in there, right then. And I'll walk out the same day with a firearm. After they do a background check. Why do I have to wait 8 months for an accessory? Right? It's not even a firearm. That's dumb. Because it makes it effective.
So then my last conspiracy. So now, again, on this one, on the whole Waco thing, it was just one of those deals that I just remember. It just seemed like they did not give those people a chance. I mean, they had no chance to come out, and I don't know. It was a weird deal.
Well, okay, Chad, I disagree with you. They had a chance to come out before they got in a gunfight with the ATF.
The people didn't inside.
You're telling me that 80, some of them couldn't overpower Koresh and say,
I don't know. I mean, 28 of those people were kids.
Good, bite them in the leg. Let's go. Load them up.
I don't know. It just seemed like a weird deal. So all right, this is going to take us into Ruby Ridge. So have you heard about Ruby Ridge?
I don't know much about that one. I've heard of it. I don't know much about it.
So it was Randy Weaver was the main guy, and kind of along the same grounds was he had a bunch of guns. So and this wasn't the ATF, it was a U.S. Marshal Service. So they went in to get him because he didn't appear in court. So he was supposed to go to court about his guns, and he didn't show up. And he was going off of the constitutional right to bear arms, right? So he was saying, I don't need to go in. I don't need to get permits. I'm on my own land. Doesn't matter how many guns I have. And he lived up there with his family, and I think there was another couple that lived up there. But they show up and got into a gunfight, and the ATF ended up killing his wife and his son, and shot another person that was there, and his name, what was his name? I don't remember his name. Harris. His last name was Harris.
Yep.
So anyway, so this was a long standoff too. It wasn't near as long as Waco. They were there. How many? 11-day siege. So this was an 11-day deal. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I got the talk box narrating, buddy. We don't need to.
Yeah, we don't need all that. So anyway, at the end of all this, all charges against Randy Weaver were dropped. He was awarded like $3.1 million. The Harris guy got $380 million for getting shot. So yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, no, all charges were dropped. And he got paid. But he lost his wife and his son. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I'm pretty upset, but
that's a bad deal. But yeah, I mean, dude, imagine that. Imagine you're just minding your business. Although, yeah, he probably should have went to court, right? But he was probably going to go to jail.
I don't think okay, unless he bought those firearms off the street, I don't understand why he would have to go to court for buying firearms, right?
Dude, and I don't know the whole backstory on that. I have no idea.
If he acquired them legally, or
yeah, I don't know the whole backstory on why he didn't go in or why he had to go in.
Well, he didn't go in because
it was a bench warrant. He had a bench warrant, so he was supposed to go, and he didn't.
Okay, cool, but you don't technically, by the Constitution, you don't have to tell people what you own. Okay,
I
you
get
have
it.
the right to own whatever firearm you want.
But if you have a warrant, someone's coming to get you, right? I mean, irregardless.
Why'd the government pay him out if he was in the wrong?
Well, that's just it. I mean, that's just it. He was in the right, but still, what do they tell you? You always do what you're told. You do what you're told, man. If the officer wants you to step out of the car, you step out of the car.
1 second.
So he got told the court wrong date.
He got told the wrong date for court. Okay, now what? What else does it say? Did he acquire those firearms legally, or was that illegally? Yeah, he got told the wrong date. No wonder they paid him out. And you want to know something funny about the whole, like the county, they set my property taxes to like the wrong place. So I didn't know, and I'm not from here, so I don't know when my property taxes are due. And I forgot about it. Never got nothing in the mail. So I just kept going on business, just kept doing my thing. Well, then down here, our sheriff is the tax collector too. So, and he's a nice guy. I really like, I'm not going to say his name on the podcast. Me and him are buddies. He calls me. He's like, "Hey, Bridwell, you're late on your property taxes." I said, "Well, I've never received nothing in the mail. I don't even know what I owe." He said, "Really?" He goes and looks. They sent it to Missouri. I don't live in Missouri. So then I was like, okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I don't. So, and for that, because they sent it to the wrong place, he didn't make me pay the whole total.
Really?
No, I didn't pay what I was supposed to pay, and next year I'll pay the full amount.
Right.
But since I was late, and they tried to tack on a bunch of late fees and all this crap, and they messed up and sent it to the wrong place anyways. He's like, nah. He's like, here's what we'll do. You pay this year, and next year we'll get you right back on track. We'll go back to what you owe next year. So that's what I mean. Things run a little bit different where I'm from, where I live, than anywhere else. Anywhere else, they'd have been like, we don't care.
Yeah,
You
we
owe
don't care. You should have known better.
But we live in a small town. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's good with everybody. So they were just like, okay, this is what you owe. Next year, we'll put you back on track. All right, cool.
Well, that was awful nice of them.
Making possessing for selling.
He got indicted for making and possessing the firearms.
Oh, so he made them.
He made them,
But he did not sell them.
but he did not sell them.
So is that illegal?
No,
Hmm.
it's not illegal. Back when this would have happened, you were able to order 80% lowers, right? And completely build them and then build up receivers. I mean, yeah, technically it's not illegal. Now, if you were to sell them after you made them, then that's really illegal, right? But he didn't do that. So, yeah, technically he didn't break the law at all. And by the way, the one thing I do know about that is they fired upon him first, and there was no warning. It was just they went up there and they just
an ambush. Yep.
and they just started tearing him up.
Yeah, and I think they killed an agent there too, I believe.
Oh
yeah, killed the deputy marshal, William Francis Deegan.
I thought they killed a few.
And they may have.
Look that up, Ross.
A sniper shot Weaver and shot Harris. So they had a sniper, an FBI sniper. And then that sniper killed Weaver's wife, Vicky. So yeah.
Wow. Dude. And you know what? Imagine the oopsies when they go to court. Like, oh, well, the judge is like, did you give him a warning? Did you try to tell him to come out? Right. No, we just started firing. And that's because that's something I did read about it was there was no warning. They got spooked, right? Because they knew he had all these firearms and they thought they heard something. So they just started lighting the house up.
Well, then you wonder, did they know they were coming? You know what I mean? Or was it totally a total, they had no idea they were coming? If
you miss court, right, they're not going to send you a letter in the mail saying, hey, this is the date all these officers are going to pull up, just letting you know. Especially if they think you're making and selling firearms, I doubt they want the element of surprise.
No, and I get that, but I'm just wondering if he heard them or saw them or, you know what I mean? I mean, he was up on a freaking ridge. I mean, it's Ruby Ridge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember back in the day when me and Olivia lived out in the West Coast. I remember we watched something about it a long time ago. So I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember when they first pulled up, the marshals were like, okay, we're going to go up there and you take you flank to the back and you flank to what is this, a military operation? You missed court. Go knock on the door and be like, hey, my name's so-and-so and have people back there covering you, right? So, right. I mean, I'd have a sniper back there, okay, and just knock on the door, whoever's bravest, and be like, hey, you missed court. If you just come with me, we'll make this all right. You know, we'll take you to court. You might have to pay a fine or whatever, but no, let's circle his house and just start lighting it up.
That's what they did. And yeah, and this is back in 92. So August of 92.
Yeah.
That's messed up, man.
Fun facts.
Okay.
Randy Weaver was born in our home state of Iowa.
Randy Weaver was born in Iowa.
Well, you know, I knew some Weavers when I lived in Webster City.
Did you?
So, fun fact. I got a fun fact. His name was Dennis Weaver, the kid I went to school with. So Dennis Weaver is an actor. Not the same guy, but my buddy was Dennis Weaver.
What city was he born in?
So there's something we could talk about sometime too.
Yeah, the Villisca axe murder is the most haunted place in America, is what they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, Villisca, Iowa.
Yeah.
Did your mom and my daughter spend the night there?
Yeah, they did. They went there. Why, I don't know, but
Well, they spent the night there. They wanted to
why?
because it's haunted.
Yeah,
and
that's
they wanted to do it.
You know what? And then you watch all these shows about people bringing shit home with them. Well, why are you risking that?
Well, you know, that's. Have you ever met your mom?
I have.
Oh, okay.
You impressed?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she's a good woman, but
So I got one more thing to go over, and I don't know if we want to go over this now or do this on a whole another episode. But the disclosure thing. I don't know if you want to do that now or if you want that can be a whole. We can do another UFO episode and talk about it.
what's the disclosure? I'm missing something here.
So the Soul Project, they had a Soul conference, and someone somehow got a picture of what they're going to be doing with the government and has the government disclosure process of what they're going to do with UFOs and UAPs.
Okay, we'll save that for another episode.
Okay.
Because we're at an hour 40 now.
Yep.
So, is there anything that you want to close up on? Like, have you got anything shorter that we can talk about?
I don't. Other than again, I just would really like to push out our email address, shockthenation2023@outlook.com, and send in some videos. Hey, if you guys got like some UFO videos or ghost videos or something that we could put on and show everybody, we kind of want to get this channel and kind of get a little broad base on what we're doing. But if it leads down a track and we're focused on certain things, we'll definitely go there. But any help you guys can give, that'd be awesome. I know there's a lot of channels out there that do that kind of stuff, and we'll try to come up with some content too, like what we're doing tonight. But at some point it gets harder, right? I mean, trying to find stuff to talk about, and I like Jesse. It's not like we've got all day to dig this stuff up, but yeah, any help you guys can do, again, that's shockthenation2023@outlook.com. And yeah, give us some stuff, man. Help us out.
And I told them earlier too, Chad, like if they send in like for instance, I thought about it this way. If they send in a video, right, that about a topic that they want to hear about, like to the email, right, we'll look at it a couple days before the podcast. And if that topic's something they want to hear about and they make like a how do you know that video, we'll put them in as our intro to the show, and that'll line up the topic already, right?
Yep.
So if you guys send in like a video on something you want to hear talked about on the show, and we'll put it on the intro. You'll be the intro to the whole video, okay? And then the narrator, the sauce boss, will look up some information about it. I'll look some up, and Chad will, and we'll have like a whole topic to go on. And we can even make it a longer episode depending on the topic and depending on what kind of storyline it's got on it and how long we can make it run. So anything that you guys want to hear, send it to that email. Again, is shockthenation2023, no caps, no spaces, @outlook.com.
Yep.
And we'll make you the intro. And
or we'll make fun of you, one of the two. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, you decide.
Chad,
I'm kidding.
We're not going to do that because then you're not going to send in a video. So we're not going to make fun of you.
Well, I said make fun of you.
Oh, yeah. No dick pics. Once again, the sauce boss, if you want his email, you can send all of them to him. What's your email?
I have an email.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Well, Ross doesn't have an email now.
Yeah, you send him the email, and if you want his phone number, maybe we'll give you that, and you can just text him those pictures.
Yeah, we'll put his phone number down in the next post. Just go ahead and send all your nudies to him.
Yeah.
And by the way, our audience is anywhere from 35 to 65 years old, Chad. So Ross isn't going to get any young pictures. Let's put it that
Well,
way.
that's all right. That's okay. He likes the old people. I mean, like me. So
Yeah, if you guys send it to that email and it's a good topic, we'll put you in on the intro and we'll go from there.
please do.
But yeah, if you, I appreciate everyone that came to watch and shock the nation, brother.
Get it on. Sander,
All right.
bad.
Sander, bud. All right, see you guys.
Hey, see ya.